right. We got a phenomenal podcast today. We have Coach Brandon Napoleon from Wofford. He's the cornerbacks coach there. Before we introduce Coach, I have my co-host, as always, Coach DePascal, with me. It's great to really talk to Brandon today, especially it's such a exciting, wild time in college sports with the transfer portal and everything. And we'll get to talk about his career as well. Coach originally went to West Virginia. Was from New Jersey, so that's how both me and Coach know him originally. He was a star in New Jersey. He was an All-American in high school. He was a fantastic player. He's actually a quarterback, if I'm not mistaken, at a high school. He went to West Virginia originally. Finished his career at Kansas Wesleyan. He was a coach at Susquehanna with a lot of really fantastic coaches. That was a great coaching staff. Coached a couple of All-Americans there. They had some great teams. He was at Sacred Heart. He was at Kutztown. He was really phenomenal coach then at University of Rhode Island, and then went on now over at Wofford, which is a fantastic program. He was also with Jacksonville State, I think, with Rich Rod for a year too. So he's really climbed the ranks of coaching.
Yeah.
Fantastic defensive backs coach. Was a fantastic athlete himself. Being from New Jersey and knowing his career. So, without further ado, welcome Coach Napoleon.
Hey, thank you guys for having me, man. Like I said, we go way back, all the way from my high school days. And don't toot my horn as a player. I was a bust, man. I was a bust.
No, stop it. Come on, Coach.
Please,
man.
We got to give the flowers where they're necessary.
No, you were a fantastic player. And as you know, as a coach, college football is a wild place, right? And lots of things happen. You got to find what your opportunity as a player and where you fit and take that from a career standpoint and really run with it. So it's great to have you on. I touched on it obviously briefly. Talk about your career as a coach and some of the places you've been, things that you've done and worked on as a coach. And if you want to talk about yourself as a player, you're certainly welcome to do that as well.
As a coach, man, I started off when I graduated from Kansas Wesleyan in 2018. I tried the whole CFL, IFL, all the different FLs you could do. Got cut from the Arena League, and I said, it's time to start my life. So I started selling insurance in King of Prussia, PA, for a little bit, and I was doing pretty well for myself. A good talksman. But it wasn't my passion, and I knew I wanted to keep in the sports and keep empowering young men, almost how I was empowered coming up. So I got into coaching, went on to football school, found Susquehanna University, and did an interview, full suit and tie. Brought my wife, now Nicole, before she was my girlfriend, brought her to my interview, and she was the good luck charm. Got the job. So in 2018, I was at Susquehanna, got a chance to go 11-1. One of the best records they had at that time in the history of the school. I got a chance to coach Daniel Shelton. He was the first team All-American. He was second in the Cliff Harris Awards. So that was big, my first year coaching. And, I don't take credit for that. I didn't recruit the kid, but he was a good player. He took coaching, and from there just was able to get opportunities from there. So I actually went to Midwestern State, a D2 for about 2 months. I don't really put that on my resume, but that was a good experience going down to Texas. Got a chance to recruit Texas ball for 2 months. Got a chance to learn a different demographic of people, and when it comes to coaching, and get around a different coaching staff and work hard for them. So at least they knew my worth. I still talk to some of those guys today. But from there, that's when my wife got pregnant with my now son. He just turned 4 last week, Amari. Got pregnant with him, and you know how that goes. GA at D2 not making a lot of money. I had to make a switch. So we took the job at Geneva College, where I was the defensive backs coach, pass game coordinator at Co-DC. And that was a D3 up by Aliquippa, PA, by Pittsburgh. And it was a struggle. It was tough. It wasn't like Susquehanna. We were on the up and up at the time before we had losing records. And I came in for that spring season, and we went from being like 111th in the country in pass defense to 20th. So that was a win for me. We won. We upset Grove City at home, and that was a big deal in the city of Geneva. So from there, I went to Cookstown and you stated that was a short stint. That was like 3 weeks. And that was just my wife wanted to get closer to home. And, Cookstown's closer to King of Prussia, Paoli area where she's from. So I took that job and I was going to stay there. But Buffalo called with the new staff with Maurice Linguist. And I couldn't pass up the opportunity to go learn from Coach Mo. At that time, he was the co-DC at Michigan, and he just came from the Dallas Cowboys. And then he got a chance to, get the head coaching job at Buffalo. He's a DB guy, and I was still young in the coaching profession. And I said, I need to go under him, learn under him. DeAndre Thompson was the corners coach, great coach. Now he's with the Denver Broncos. And then Rod Ojan was my safeties coach, and I was his GA. He's the corners coach right now at Indiana. So learning under those two and learning under Coach Lincoln was great. I learned hard work, sleeping in the office, the whole grind of a D1 GA. I got it all. From there, I got my first opportunity, like you said, to go to Sacred Heart and go be a position coach. So I was the corners coach the first year there. We had a good record. We was able to be the number 4 pass defense in the country, which is a blessing. First time being FCS coach, first time being ranked top 5 in passing defense. So I was blessed and had an all-conference guy in Arsheen Giles. From there, the next season, had a couple schools calling me, and I wanted to stay at Sacred Heart. So they bumped me up to defensive pass game coordinator and the whole DB coach. But I had a good friend of mine who I played with at West Virginia, Marcel Lazard. He called me. He was at Rhode Island at the time. He's still there now, but he was at Rhode Island. He said, "Hey, man, we got an opportunity." And at the time, people talk about lateral moves and things of that nature.
Right.
But Sacred Heart was in NEC and Rhode Island was in the CAA. I think it's an upward trajectory in the FCS level. So I took the job and was able to be the defensive backs coach at Rhode Island University after Sacred Heart. And I had 21 guys in the room. I was coaching the safeties, nickels, and corners with a little bit of help from I had a safety guy, Austin Cordova. He was helping me. And now defensive backs coach at Rhode Island, Henry Yannikopoulos, was my nickels assistant. So I had a good supporting staff, and we had a good defensive staff there. Coach Laurenti, Coach Lazar, Coach Gilmore. I say to this day that was one of the best staffs that I've been on in totality. Just scheme and learning ball. We had a decent year. And then this year they went to the playoffs and played Mercer. So creating a foundation for Coach Yannikopoulos to, learn, and now he's doing his thing over there. And then from that point, Coach Richrod called, and I went to the convention interview. My interview was at Skills and Drills. I did my Skills and Drills at AFCA, and he was front and center with most of the Jack State staff. Did my thing. I had lunch with him. 2 days later, he called and offered me the job for the safeties job at Jacksonville State University down in Alabama. Most people think it's in Florida. I thought it was in Florida. To the beach. He was like, I got my plane ticket. It's Alabama. I was like, oof, so that was a real big change. It was the first time being down south, really position coaching ball, but great experience. Got a chance to coach an All-American Zachariah Poyser. Let's backtrack. At Rhode Island, I was able to coach Saeed Gibbs, who was also All-American. He ended up transferring to Georgia Tech and started last year as a nickel for Georgia Tech. Then Jack State last year, I was able to coach Zachariah Poyser, who ended up hitting the portal, was a portal 5-star, the number 2 safety in the country. He ended up, right now he's at Miami. And I had another all-conference guy, Antonio Carter. So the 2 safeties that played both ended up being all-conference. One was All-American. So it was all blessings from God. And we ended up winning the Conference USA conference championship. And then from there, things happened in the coaching game. That staff went to West Virginia. New staff came into Jack State. And, a couple of us guys was lingering around Jack State, and I got a chance to interview at the convention for Wofford. And obviously God's graces, I was able to obtain this job and been here for the whole spring, and just being able to develop this young group that I have has been awesome. Seeing the strides that they took from day one to now in their journey, just being young men, and excited for the season, excited to see what these guys can do.
Very, very cool. It's quite a journey you're on. Talk about like the exciting parts and the difficulties of kind of that journey. Like, because a lot of people don't really understand. A lot of people want to go coach in college, but they don't really understand the things that it requires. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the successes are always seeing your players take what you drill and what you preach in the meeting rooms at Indy and take it to the field of play. The struggles are, if you have a wife, you're not gonna be home much. If you have a kid, you're not gonna see your kids' games. You're not gonna like. I just missed my daughter's, my stepdaughter's. She just made honor roll, and I wasn't able to be there for an honor roll ceremony. So things of that nature is a sacrifice, and it depends on what staff you're on. If your coach is going to allow you to do certain things or go to certain things that your family is doing. So it's just a sacrifice, sacrifice early. So like later on, I hope to retire in about 10 more years when my son's in high school so I can sit down, watch his games.
Right.
But it's a lucrative business, there's money involved. But if you do it for the right reasons and you don't chase logos, you chase people, you would never work a day in your life. I mean, I'm come to work happy every day, I wear sweatpants and watch film and kick it with the kids. So it's always a plus in that regard. But these players are more like my kids than my kids in terms of I see them more and I instill in them more. But you're not going to get that family time. You have to try to make it. Like my family comes in and they eat lunch with me and they see my family and the kids come to the house and they're seeing me being a dad. So it has its mixed emotions.
Right.
We're missing things at home.
Of course.
It's hard, but when you try to implement and be around a good staff that allows you to have your kids in the office and things of that nature, it lessens the blow a little bit.
Absolutely. I'm curious about the relationships. So you've really done in a very short time, built some really great relationships in coaching. What are some of the things that you kind of have started to figure out along the way that helps you build those relationships with coaches that you may work for and the trust from them?
Well, first, when you work with the coaches, it's all about doing whatever. I mean, at Susquehanna, that's where it started. It was my first year coaching. All I know is work. So if something needed to be done, go grab this, go do that. I was doing it. At Buffalo was the same thing. Coach Ojohn was hard. I need this, need that, need this, wipe down this, run around trying to get that done, showing your worth and adding worth. I think my biggest worth was recruiting, especially at Buffalo when you're a GA, getting in and they having a niche. So my niche at Buffalo, obviously learning the X's and O's and things of that nature, being a corners guy, moving the safeties, learning the box. But I was like, okay, I'm really good at recruiting. I'm going to get guys in this building and show my worth in that regard. And so that's how I earned trust with that staff. But each staff is always just working hard and building genuine relationships. Not, everybody looks at me, but you got a lot of followers on Twitter. But I don't follow a lot of people back in terms of it's not – I like genuine relationships in terms of I ask about my kids, I'm asking about your kids. It's not always about football. It's not always about trying to get a job, the next progression. It's about genuine relationships, about people who actually care about you as a person. So that's why I think I do a good job at when it comes to relationship building. I talk to Coach Brian Nardo every day. We send Bible scriptures in the morning, not even about football. I send a Bible scripture to him. He'll like it, send a Bible scripture back. And we talk throughout the day about what's going on throughout the day. But that's a genuine relationship that I build over time. And, ask about his kids, his Erica and all those, his wife. But it's so on and so forth. Van Malone, we were talking this morning. But like to what you're saying is genuine relationships, not, oh, let me get a job or, oh, this job is open. Let me hit him up right now. And,
right.
And, just being genuine.
Van Malone, you said, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I know him going way back when you were in high school, like a coach days when he was first coming up the same path. I remember we used to send him players. He would always ask about different players from the camps and stuff like that. And I would then, it's wild. He's really climbed the ranks. He's a fantastic coach. It's when you were at Susquehanna, was Alan Zymaitis there or no?
Yeah, Coach Z was there.
AZ was there. Okay.
Yeah, he was there. He was my overseer. Those jobs where he's the DB coach making the big bread, and then you're the assistant making $7,500 a year.
Doing all the work.
Yeah, doing all the work. He's just sitting back. I learned a lot from Coach AZ.
Yeah. No.
But I think that's also, Brandon, I think that's a part of the whole thing that, you got to do that stuff when you're young, right? And when, you're growing your family. And a lot of those guys kind of talk about that, in terms of, when you get from being a player and you finally make that decision, like, hey, all right, now it's time to start my life, right? You kind of jump in and you don't really know what you're getting into because, a lot of times, look, you see as a player what the coaches put in, but at the same time, when you go back to your dorm or your apartment and those guys are still there, right? Like that's the stuff that players, when they get into it, it's the biggest adjustment, right? Like, oh, I'll just go coach, and I played a long time, so I know this or I know that. But that diving into it really kind of opened your eyes. What were some of the biggest challenges with you being a young guy coming into the game as a coach? Just talk about that a little bit.
My sleep. I mean, that was the biggest thing. Like,
it's reality, man. Like, it's reality. Like, so go ahead, speak on it.
If we're speaking real, it was really just my sleep. Every player, like you said, thinks they can go work hard. Or I wake up and I work hard and I go to practice. I'm tired, but you're physically tired. Like, you're physically tired sometimes mentally if you have some things going on, schoolwork and things of that nature. But as a coach, it's if you want, I'm not saying if you want to be a great coach, but my standard is like right now my players work out. They have a 6:30 lift group. I'm in the weight room 5:30. So right. I'm trying to lead by example. So I'm dead tired. I got my baby crying throughout the night. I wake up at 4, get my Bible in, going in. I'm tired. And while the kids get to go home, like after they work out, they go home to their dorm, take a nap, go to class. I go right in the office and start preparing for them. So it's really just your time and the sleep. For me, that's what the biggest adjustment. I was like, I'm very tired right now. But you work ways that first time ever drinking coffee was Buffalo. Out of my 31 years of life, I was like, I need something. I wasn't energy. I started getting coffee, and I became addicted to Starbucks.
So, there you go, man. But, hey, whatever works.
Yeah, but I would say my biggest problem or adjustment was I was just tired. And then after I got over that, your first couple years, you get over that. It's an adjustment and you're an early riser, as they all say. And you listen to podcasts and then you get motivated. Head coaches say, I'm in the office at 4 a.m., 4:30. I'm like, okay, that's kind of excessive. I'll get in there at 5:30, but, starting your day early now is nothing to me. My wife looks at me like I'm crazy. She's like, how are you up so early? You go to sleep so late, you're up early. It's a lifestyle that you grow into.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. And like, I think that's also, especially when now you have those young kids, right? And you're, like you say, you're up all night because they're screaming like the office don't care about that. Your players, they care, but they don't care about that. Like, you still got to get done what you got to get done. I'm so thankful that I've always been a morning guy and a morning riser, right? Like, same thing. My wife looks at me like I'm crazy. She's like, why are you getting up at 4 a.m.? I'm like, well, it's the only time I can get done what I need to get done. And at the end of the day, you do need a little bit of that me time. Like you're talking about your Bible scripture. Same with me. I shoot off a Bible scripture every morning or I journal or something. You have to take care of you so that you can deliver all of that to your players and you can give that full amount of juice, right? And what it has to do. They don't care what you're doing as long as you're there and you're prepared for them. So I think that's a huge part of what a lot of people really don't see that goes into it,
You're right. You're right. Me and we have a little, breakfast club here. Me, coach, our safeties coach, Coach Devin Watson, receiver coach, Coach Michael Lee, and then the co-DC, Coach Saxon. We're in there. I showed up late today. That was on me. It was my day off. So they actually lifted with the lift group at 8:30, and I showed up late. They on there sweating. They getting on me like all the players like, Coach, you late. And I felt that, because I was late. But I was getting my sleep. We have all. But if you have people around you that hold you accountable to a standard,
absolutely,
it's gonna make you wait. It's gonna make you wake up. And when you have players to account for, you want to be a great coach. You'll wake up and get that done. But I do need my me time, and that's in the morning.
Yeah, that's important.
That is important. And coaching DBs and developing DBs, what are some of the things that when you first started, when you first started coaching DBs in college, what you did and what are you doing now? Have you evolved certain things? Are there certain core things that that you're important to you that you stick with?
Yeah, I mean, from day one at Susquehanna, I didn't know anything. I just knew drills that I did that West Virginia or drills that you could do Indy, but I didn't know Visio. I didn't know really how much the computer mattered to coaching. Like you said, as a player, you just see plays and you just see Indy drills. You just see that, but you don't see the office work. You don't see the Visios and playbooks, how does playbooks get drawn, how do cutups get made. So though that's the biggest adjustment I had to make. And then, I'm learning every day. Like I just went to Charlotte 2 weeks ago to their practice with my guy Trey Bell and learned some things. Trey Bell, Jersey. Learn some things. I took it to my Indy the next practice. So you learn every day. But I think just structure of office work is the biggest thing that is an adjustment that every new stop you go to, you either got Exos, DB Sport, you got Huddle, you got to adjust to that. You got to adjust to different playbooks, different teaching philosophies of the DC, and you don't want to take what you learn somewhere else. Like you always have to adjust to the new staff and the new coaching,
right?
And I think that's the biggest adjustment that some coaches make mistake in, where they're only stuck in there one way, or I learned this here. Like, so that's every school I go to. New school has been a lot. You always have to make that adjustment to what that DC or what that head coach, what his leadership style is, and what he's trying to accomplish. But drills and things like that, I have the same drills, my core drills that I will stand on the table for. And then, like you said, just make some tweaks and things as you go to podcasts or you listen to, you watch some AFCA, things of that nature. You say, oh, I like that drill. I'm gonna implement that. But I do have my core, we come out on the field, the first thing we're always going to do, we're all going to say a prayer. We're going to get on that ladder, work our feet activation. We're going to get on that ground with bands. We're going to stretch our hips. All right. And then we're going to go over our fits, our run fits first. Because, when you're a corner, you don't think about fits. But we're in the fit here. You know what I mean? Gaps move. If we're a trap corner, we have the edge and it's counted the other way. Yeah, now we're almost an A gap. You know what I'm saying? So they have to understand that. So I want to train their body and mind before practice. And then the Indy drills, I do A, B, C, D always. That's always my core. Agility, block destruction, contact, and development. I want to work our feet, hip movements, hip ability. I want to be able to work our block destruction. I want to be able to work contact, and I want to be able to develop the skill that we're doing for that day. So if we're playing cover two premises and we're a cover two, we're installing cover two, I want to be able to do cloud drills. I want to be able to do trap corner drills so they can have their expertise and know what they're doing throughout the day.
It's critical, like to have those core things that you're able to stand on, that you could go with, and like you said, when you demonstrated it in the skills and drills thing for the AFCA for Coach Rich Rod, it helps get you new positions and new opportunities. When you come in and you're coaching, because you probably have a wide range of guys from development standpoint, from guys that are ready to go right now, your starters, guys that you're trying to elevate their level, and then there are other guys that might be younger that you're trying to get to a certain level. How do you kind of integrate that from a coaching standpoint and try to, meanwhile you're working with a group, still customized to what each guy's development needs are?
Well, it's called a toolbox, in my opinion. I give each guy the same, like if we're working press man, it's inch, pure step, mirror motor. All right, this might be somebody's better at pure step than they are inch, somebody better at mirror motor than they are pure step. So I let their play dictate what they do on the field. So I don't say you have to pure step because the guy might not be able to pure step. So I'm just gonna have him on the bench because he can't do one technique. And if I'm coaching one person, I'm coaching everybody. So everybody's getting the same teacher. If I'm yelling or getting on somebody about, okay, you took the wrong step, and your hips are locked down, you threw the wrong hand, I'm coaching everybody in the room at that point. And it's up to you if you see it that way, but I let them know if I'm coaching him, I'm coaching you as well. All right, we're all getting the same coaching. When we're watching film here, I always say, do we all understand? So if I'm coaching one person, I ask, do we all understand this? Because so I don't have to say it again. But it's always about the 80-20 rule to me. I'm putting in 80% of my time to those top 4 people going to be on the field, and this is real. And 20% of my time, like extra time, is going to be to the developmental guys. And then when those guys are ready to go, then they get my 80%. But you try to give somebody your 400%, then your top guys are not getting what they need to get. The guys are going to be on the field, and that's just being real on this podcast. In my opinion, I learned that while reading a nice little book. I started reading books when you get out of college. You don't want to. You get into college, you're like, I don't want to read. to get out of college and try to get
Yep.
more wise.
Then all of a sudden you're part of book clubs over here and you're doing this, doing that. You're talking about it. And now the book of the month, like, I get it, man. I get it. It's a huge change, man. Like you just hit that real life button, and a lot of things that you used to think were really damn goofy, all of a sudden you're doing them and you're like, damn, I guess I'm goofy. Right. Like,
so I give it the 80-20 rule, man.
Yeah. And I think that's an important thing, because sometimes coaches take for granted the guy's a starter and that he understand, he's doing all the things that are necessary and he understands everything. And then they work down towards the guys that are not yet starters, not on purpose, but because you haven't spent enough time just looking at what they're doing, because they're already there. They're already starting for you. And I think that's what's helped you really elevate a lot of the guys to become elite players that have coached and to coach those All-Americans, being able to recognize that, like, hey, my starters need to make sure they get to an elite level, and the guys that I'm looking to develop, I don't want to go and coach the other guys that I don't pay attention to my starters. I think that's a real important point that I think you brought up, and a lot of coaches sometimes do. You don't do that, but a lot of coaches do take it for granted, right? This guy knows what he's doing. He's the guy, and he's going to be good, right? And then that person starts to flatline, right, instead of continue to progress. I think that's a really important point. I want to shift gears to recruiting, because I know you're excellent at this, and this is obviously one of your wheelhouses is really being a fantastic recruiter. Take us through kind of a little bit, and for people that obviously right now, because transfer portal's open and all that kind of stuff, there's all kinds of things going on, right? In the news, you already see the Nico Amulueva deal, and then you got over, Fran Brown was talking about, Trevor Pena. That's all over the news, right? And then over obviously in Rutgers in New Jersey, the big news was kid who was going to be a starter, one of the top recruits, like basically a high 4-star, transfers out, right? So those are a lot of the wild things in recruiting. Talk about like what you focus on as far as when you're recruiting athletes. What are some of the things that you look for, and the characteristics of kids you want to bring in?
First of all, I need to know their DNA in terms of their background. So I'm going to talk to them, and I'm going to talk to their parents, and I'm going to talk to their coach. And that's their nucleus. That's who they're around always. The parents, coach, and them as a person. So I need to know about them as a person, genuine relationships, because that's what it's all about. After I get to know them as a person, I need to know their football IQ, because, like the guys I'm recruiting, if I'm recruiting you, that means I like your film. So that's the football part of it. It speaks for itself. But the next part of it is, who are you as a person? What makes you tick? What makes you go? And so if I know what makes you go, like your mom, your mom's sick and you're trying to pay bills, I need to get to the league. If your goal is that, okay, I know he has a chip on his shoulder. He needs to be able to, get what he needs done. If I know, all right, I just need to know things in your life to help me be able to help you out, help me help you type thing. And, how your parents are. Like, if your parents let you, smoke weed and all this stuff like that, that means you'll come to college and smoke weed. And I'm not going to be able to stop you because your parents allow that. That might not be somebody I want. The physical attributes are easy. I just don't want a runner and a striker. Everything else I can teach, I believe. If you can run, you can strike, awesome. You have contact courage. That's what I call it, contact courage. You can be 150 pounds. But if you have the courage to go hit somebody, I can work with that. It means you're not a punk. If you have speed, that means I can work with your feet on the ladder. That means I can get your hips looser throughout the summer. That means I can develop your skills. We have times to do that. So the attributes is running and striking, having contact courage. But I need to know your DNA, who you're around, who you hang around, what do you do outside? Are you a football junkie? Do you watch film? That's the most important things in what I look at. I think as a coach, all the coaches think is that you can get any player right that has the attributes you want. And that you can't teach. Other things you can teach. You can't teach speed, and you can't teach contact courage. So that's what I look at when we talk about recruiting.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially a defensive back, right? That's like if you can't run, you're not going to be able to play.
You better be able to tackle somebody.
Yeah, you got to be able to get there, and you got to be able to finish. It's so talk about like So what area are you responsible for at Wofford? What area?
We're about to go on the road on Sunday, so I'm going to middle of Georgia,
Okay.
Macon area, Warner Robins area, this next week. Then I'm gonna go down to Jersey. They gave me the great land of Jersey, so I'm gonna go down there, spend a week in Jersey, come back. I'm going down to Tampa for a week, and then I'm going to Myrtle Beach.
Do you see? So
Great area.
That's very very different area. Yeah. Do you when you're around the country, do you see like different pockets having different types of guys, like different players, like as far as athletically, do you see a more of a plethora like in Florida and Georgia versus, Jersey might get a couple of guys, but Georgia might have 10 guys, but like talk about that part. Me and Derek, I mean, obviously, because I ran events all over the country for so many years, so I uniquely understand it. But sometimes when we talk to people locally, they have a hard time understanding it, right? They don't know. Talk about what you see when you go around the country recruiting wise and the type of players you see.
So I would say this: when you go up to Jersey, as we know, the parochial schools, St. Joe's, St. Peter's, Don Bosco, those are the hotbeds. And I think those teams create the good players. I think we go to Florida and Georgia, those players are making the team. Those players are very good, fast, big, strong. It's different down south. I would say that. I think the players down south, they have football all year round, 7-on-7, good weather. They lift and they have spring ball, so they have more time to be good. Up north, we're more basketball because we have indoors and things of that nature. But I think up north, the teams in Jersey at least are better than the teams down south. But the players down south are stronger, bigger, faster than the players, let's say, just in Jersey. And I'm a Jersey guy, so I can say that. Like, when I was in Bama,
100%.
You want to see a D line in Bama? I pulled up to a school. He was 6'8", like 300 pounds. I ain't never seen this before up north. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
No, yeah. Like they're the absolute rarities in Jersey. And Dave and I, like, we talk about this all the time when it comes to it. Because we all have networks throughout the country, right, where guys coach in Texas or they coach here or they do that, and we talk about this all the time, and then it's an argument in that stuff. Like, the teams up here are excellent, right? You're going to get a well-coached kid, a disciplined kid, right? A kid that's going to put the work in. Academics usually probably aren't going to be an issue in any way, shape, or form, right? But now you go outside of here, and like you said, you get into the South, and you hit on everything that we've been talking about when it comes to, look, year-round football, right? Like, they have like spring ball. Football is their first block or class of the day where they're getting that stuff in. Like I said, they have all those practices in the spring to get right. They can go out to the park on Christmas Day and throw a ball and not have to worry about 5 feet of snow. Right? And it's just those things that kind of put those guys in a better position to be more successful because they get to do it all the time, and everybody around them is football oriented. Whereas, like you said, up here, you have hoops, you have wrestling is huge up here, right? Like, that's a big deal. And then when you start transitioning to the spring, now you got baseball guys. Lacrosse is really big, you know what I mean? Like, up here, whereas I don't know if you see that like anywhere else in the country in terms of that stuff. Like, these guys, it's like, hey, what sport do you do in the spring, right? And it's like, oh, I do football. What are you talking about? Like, so that's the biggest difference we talk about. And it's just interesting to see, especially a guy being a Jersey guy. Like, you lived that, that, right? Like, and now you can go and tell these guys, like, hey, they have spring ball. A lot of people don't even realize that they have formal spring ball in the South at high school, right? Or they have high school 7-on-7 teams, which are now kind of starting to be a thing up here, but still not on the level that it is down south in terms of it's all club stuff up here. The rules dictate that you can't work with your high school guys until track is over. So it's just very different setups when it comes to it.
I would also chime in on this, when a Jersey kid does come down south, though, it is a little bit different. Like, it is different. So I had a couple kids come down on visits, and they look good. And, our head coach was like, who's that? I'm like, that's a Jersey guy right there. Because like you said, we're put together. We got a good weight room. Not saying anything down south, but it's different when you come from a Bosco rather than going to the Warner Robins. The Warner Robins kid, you might run 10, 5, and 100, but the weight room program might not be the same, and the guy in Jersey might run a 11-1, but he's stronger than Ox. Like, you're going to get a different dynamic. You're going to get, like you said, better coaching a little bit, better teams. But like I said, it's what you ever want to pick. It's like you pick your poison. You either want a dynamite player who's like, I'm not saying Jersey kid not hungry, but you know, I was a little bit privileged, you know, at St. Peter's Prep having the weight.
It's a great way to put it, bro. It's a great way to put it. Privilege, Dave. We talk about it, right? Like, they're just dealing with different life stuff. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. I was a little bit privileged. And, you know, then you play with some dogs like Carl Joseph, you know, at West Virginia, who, you know, ain't have nothing. He ain't had no weight room. He came in 180, smoking people, hitting people hard. You're like, well, where did this guy come from? You know what I mean? So it's just a little bit of a shocker. You know what I mean?
No, that makes a lot of sense. When a lot of times the Jersey players make it, they're a little more polished, and they're able to leverage the fact that they're polished and into their success because the parochials do such a good job. They really do a great job, especially the North people. You know, because I live now down the shore, so does Derek, and
we're Central Jersey guys now, bro. Like, I guess they get so mad at us because we're always lobbying for the guys up north. Yeah, like, you can't do it. Just go play
Public school's different. There are powerhouses all over in New Jersey in different places, but parochial school, they just play each other. You know this from yourself. They just beat
the hell out of each other all season. Then they get to the playoffs, and then they beat the hell out of each other again. But Brandon, what we have seen though, since we've been down here, because we're down here, I don't know, a couple years now, the South Jersey, Philly area-ish, below, like your Egg Harbor, Atlantic City type area, really started to kind of up their game. And it's Publix. It's not, there's a couple privates down there that are, your St. Augustine's and your Holy Spirits or whatever, but the public schools down there, I mean, they're dogs. I mean, you're talking about Glassboro, a Group 1 hammering people with Division I guys all over the roster, right? Because they don't have that option to go to a Bergen, a Bosco, a Joe's. They're down there and they're regional schools, so the schools are bigger. It's not like up north where every town has a high school. Now they're starting to gain like a lot of this, and I'm telling you, they're way above competitive, and it's really cool to see how the state like itself is like just continuing to develop.
I used to say it all the time, and I'll say it live on here. South Jersey athletes are better than North Jersey athletes. North Jersey teams are better than South Jersey teams.
Correct.
Like Camden will probably come up north and do damage to a lot
individually.
Yeah, they'll do a lot of damage. But that's like you said, it goes back to almost like the South, coming down south and recruiting down south and going up north and recruiting up north. It's the same thing in Jersey in the own state. You go up north, you're going to get your powerhouse parochial schools. And it's even different. Like when I was at St. Peter's Prep, we played Pope John, Paul VI, and blew them out. You know what I mean? Like, it's different. But we play a public school, and it's a little Millville and those schools like that.
Yep.
Yeah, buddy. Oh, yeah.
They definitely do. So what recruiting-wise for Wofford, what is their overall like kind of recruiting philosophy, like between high school and transfers? How do you guys do it there?
Yeah, it's hard to get transfers in here because it's such a prestigious academic school.
Yeah,
we only have 1,700 kids that go to school, so it's a highly private school. Costs $80,000 to go here. It's Forbes top 100 academically. So high school kids, that's our hotbed. We go after high school kids, but you have to have over a 3.0 to go here.
Oh, easily.
And then if you transfer in, I think you can't have more than 5 semesters at a different school. So we can only take freshmen and sophomores and register freshmen. We can't take grad students because there is no grad school here. And we can't take older kids because we won't jeopardize our academics for athletics. So they're saying like you can't be a junior at a different school and then transfer in and get a Wofford degree in 1 or 2 years because it's not fair for everybody who went through 4 years. And obviously, but you're kind of behind the 8 ball in that regards, and everybody else in the conference is loading up on transfers, and they're trying to win right now. But it's good to have integrity with what you do, and when you win here, it's special because you're winning with high school kids or young kids who didn't pan out at another school, who are coming here now to try to, put their mark on the program.
And you get to develop a little bit more, right, Coach? Like development wise, like you get that high school guy in, and like he's going to be here, like for the most part, right? So you get to kind of focus on that development from the jump. You get to recruit the kid, bring him in, work them, continue to grow with them, and kind of, you're not getting somebody who's, hey, I get to just polish this kid because he's here for 1 year on a 1 year deal, and now he's out to the draft.
Well, no, a kid will be on a 1 year deal and go up to P5 or G5. That's what's happening.
Right. Now, and that's like, speaking on that, we've seen a lot of these guys embrace that, right? Like, so your old school coaches of, oh, this is the way it used to be. And, guys leaving my program. If you want to get in the portal, then, you're gone or whatever. But some coaches now embrace that, knowing, hey, if I get this guy who's continuously hungry to get to that next level because he felt like he was shorted in the high school recruiting process and he deserved that P4, that P5 offer, and now he's just going to come in hungry. Like, now that if I embrace that, kids are going to look at that and say, hey, I can go here 2 years of hard work, go win championships or get better, and now I'll just jump, and coach is still going to support me. So we've had a lot of guys on this show that are kind of looking at it like that, and to me, like, I think that's a recipe for success. Right? Why not? Because you're going to still get that hungry kid in the building who's going to work for you, develop. It's just you only get him for a year or two, and then he's, out the gates.
I use, like, in my recruiting slides, if a guy comes up for OV, I use that to my advantage as being a younger coach. I'm 31 years old, so I'm not that old. But I'll let them know, like, Asai Gibbs was All-American, freshman All-American, got to coach for 1 year, developed him on to Georgia Tech. Zachariah Poyser on to Miami. Even Arsene Giles at Sacred Heart. I left Sacred Heart. He had an offer to Rhode Island with me. I left Rhode Island. He had an offer to Jack State with me.
Yep.
So I tell the kids, you do right by me, I'm going to do right by you. If you can play at the next level, if I do get another job, you can come with me. If you just listen and, take the knowledge that you are obtaining, you can be like one of these guys that I did produce and coach. And I embrace it, help me help
Absolutely.
You. It's a driving profession. So if you help me be a beast on the field, and that means it's helping me, it's helping you do what you want to do and help your family out in the long run.
No doubt.
It's an awesome outlook.
Wofford is a unique place. It's part of the Southern Conference, right? Is that the
SoCon? Yes, sir.
So that's what, Sanford, Furman.
I was what are the other? That's like, okay.
So there's a lot of So it's that's a really good FCS conference. It's always been a traditional powerhouse. I remember playing in Furman back in the day against them.
Furman, no joke.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they're like that anymore, but that they used to be a traditional power, and what Wofford is.
Yeah. We call those the guys the people in purple. We don't say the F
because they're also South Carolina. That's right.
I got one of those. It's the school on the other side of town. You know what I mean? Like, because I got 2 high schools in my district. I don't say the name. I'm with it. I like that. I always use that.
It's interesting because those schools, I would say 20, 25 years ago, produced a ton of big-time athletes. And now my guess is that there's a lot of really great athletes still go there, but a lot of kids sometimes transfer up after that. And it's probably a conference where a lot of Division I schools go and try to pluck because they know it's a higher-end FCS conference. Wofford also, I remember when I was there for a game, this is when I was an agent. I was watching a player from Sanford, actually, that ended up signing with me. And what was interesting is that Wofford, the way their stadium is, I don't know if it's still out, but like people used to sit in chairs on the grass outside the stadium. It's like, because it's up above, right? It was up above. Yeah.
It's like being at St. Joe's Montville, right? They got the hill in the end zone with the cross.
There it goes right there.
That's exactly right. It was up above. But really, really beautiful place. And Spartanburg, I always thought it was like a just big, gigantic city, but it's really not. It's really a small city. A lot of powerhouse high schools there too. In that Spartanburg area, I think Dorman and is near there, and a couple other powerhouse high schools in South Carolina. Talk a little bit about as far as like where you see a lot of the things in football going forward, and especially at the position you're coaching.
Oh God.
And how you continue to see like the position evolve and recruiting continue to evolve.
I see the way college football is going is how it should be, in my opinion. I mean, like I said, I'm a younger coach, so I'm not with the old regime. Like, don't pay players. Like, I mean, I wish I knew how much my dollar would have been worth back when I was a 3-star coming out. So that makes me think about
Hell
that.
Yeah.
But, the work that these college students put in, the work that these coaches put in, they should be getting compensated for their work they're putting in. If a guy wants to transfer and another school's offering more money, I mean, who are we to say, no, you can't go do that? If somebody has a kid, you don't know what's going on in that kid's life for them to make that decision. So I'm all for it. It's just you better be a good recruiter so you can bring somebody else in if you have a good enough talent that these guys are going to come pluck. So if I know I got 2 corners in my room now that I know if they have a good year, they gone. So that means you better have a mouthpiece to be able to get 2 more to bring back in. But I think it's going in the right direction. I don't like all the transferring in terms of, a guy transferred 4 years, 4 different schools. That doesn't make sense. I think there should be a deadline or a cutoff on how many times you can transfer. But I think if it's always an upward trajectory, if the kid's not getting screwed over and he can actually play at that level, I think it's all good for him. But there are some instances where it's like, oh, we need depth, and we're just going to take this kid for depth and pay him $100,000. And the kid don't know any better. He's just going for $100,000, but he sits the bench the whole year, and now he's disgruntled. So there are those instances as well. But I think as a kid, they need to have good guidance. They need to have somebody they trust in their corner. And some of these agents they're making it hard for the kids. Like, hey, if you get in the portal now, you're gonna make $500,000. The kid get in the portal, he don't get an offer, and then
he get nothing.
Yeah, now where is he going now? And the agents is good, and these agents taking 15%, 10% from these kids. They're not even real agents. We call them street agents. Like, you're not even certified with anybody. You're just
hell no. There's no credentials back in there stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, there ain't nothing. And I'm sure, Coach, not to cut you off, but like, have you seen? Do you have more communication with those guys than head coaches now? Because that's something that we've seen, especially with social media. Like, look, maybe when you were coming out, right? But like, I know when I was coming out, like, your direct, like, a college coach had to go through your head coach to talk to you, right? Like, now with social media, you see college coaches go directly to the kid or the parents, or the street agent, like, is now talking about this, and the head coach has kind of been cut out of it. Is that something you're seeing as well?
No, in Wofford, we talked to the head coach of high school.
Right.
And even at Jack State, a kid did hit me up and say, hey, here's my agent's number, and I never hit that kid.
Hell no.
I will. I mean, obviously, I get to that level, I will have to, or maybe probably not even my job. I think it's the GM's job to talk to agents, but I'm not talking to nobody's agent. To be honest, I want to talk to the kid because the kid's the one's going to be playing for me, not the agent. And in my opinion, the kid is the person. The kid is the reason why he's in the portal. The kid's film, the kid himself. The agent had nothing to do with the kid's ability. He has nothing to do with his DNA. He didn't do anything, but he's trying to promote the kid, which is good if they're doing it the right way. I promote the agents that are taking 0% from kids and genuinely are trying to help the kid find the right spot for the kid, not for the money that they're about to make on the extra side. I support those type of agents, but the agents who take a 50%, they call my phone, I'm not answering because I want to talk to the kid. The kid says, well, you have to talk to my agent. That's not the kid that I want to recruit. I want to be able to kid like talk to me, not the agent.
Do you think you're the rarity in that mindset, Coach? Like, in terms of, like, do you think that most coaches are like you, or most coaches are like, I'll go talk to the agent, whatever, I just want to get that kid?
Well, like I said, I haven't been to the P5 level yet, so I'm pretty sure at that level is like that's how it goes. You want a kid and he won $800,000. Yeah, I'm not the person to talk to. I think it's different. So once I get to that level, maybe
you're like, hey, I ain't signing off on that one, buddy. Like, talk to this guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. But listen,
so maybe when I get older,
like you said, you're young though. Could you ever have imagined having to have hey, go talk to the GM, right? Like, when you were coming out, like, oh, hang on, like, go talk to my agent or go talk to it's like, no, you gotta talk to Coach Hansen because he ain't gonna let us. He gonna let you know what's going on, bro. Because he's the judge.
Yeah, no doubt. I could never I can never imagine that back in my day. No, but like I said, everything evolves. So I can understand it, but I won't. I just know last year at Jacksonville State, if somebody had to talk to an agent, we weren't going for that. It's like, no, I'm not talking to your agent. And Coach Rich is old school, so it's like,
oh right, hell yeah, he is.
But now I heard it's a little bit different, and they talk to GMs
of course
up there because you have to, like I said, you have to evolve, and he's a very evolving person, even though he's going to stick to his ways.
He is.
He's evolved, and his GM talks to agents. But I know last year he has an agent. I don't even have an agent. Why do you need an agent?
Hey, he got 30 guys in he's got 30 guys in the portal, so he's doing his thing.
Yeah, I already know that.
No doubt about it. That's really interesting perspective, and I'm sure also when you get to the highest level, you're dealing with also less probably street agents and more of the Drew Rosenhauses of the world, who are NFL agents who are doing the NIL stuff because they want to have those guys when they come out to the pros, right? So that's I don't even know what that dynamic was, because when I was an NFL agent for 6 years, like it was so structured on what you could do and what you couldn't do, and what the contracts were a maximum of 3%, and then marketing, you could do whatever you wanted to, and that's probably how they get around it, because it's technically NIL marketing, kind of, even though it's the collective.
Well, you talked about that, Dave, right? Like you talked about how the structure is different and how
that's
no uniformity.
Eventually, to me, like if my son was coming out, I would have him sign with an NFL agency, and and then that way, that's a group that he would work with. They would handle your NIL, and then that they understand the process better and how to conduct it. Because when you work with the NFL, there are only certain things you can do. Like you can, when you have to be a certain way when you talk to the GM, you have to be a certain way when you reach out to coaches, you have to be a certain way. And that part has got to be wild. So I think, especially at the level that you guys are at, that's definitely the right approach. I'm sure at the highest level, there might be some differences because of the NFL agents are probably a little bit more involved, but there's probably even limitations there, because I don't know that in the NFL you can only talk to certain guys during certain times, so they have to have somebody else go do that. It's very interesting, and I think you're right. Like, you got to know what the player's about. Like, that's the key thing. You got to know what the player, because you're going to be in that room with them, whether it's 1 year or 4 years, you're going to be in that room with them, and you got to know what you're dealing with every single time. And I think that's an important thing, because the last thing you want to do is every time a guy makes a play, he's coming in and saying, "Hey, can I get more money?" I mean, that's the last thing you want.
Pay me. You see a lot of clips now. A guy make a play, and I guess he's underpaid, and he's talking about pay me on the field. I'm like, so that's crazy. He's doing too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. Listen, it's one of those things, right? Like, look, your actions will allow that for you. You want to go and have a year where you have 5 picks and do whatever. Yeah, you're gonna get the ability to get paid is there. And I'm kind of right in that middle of old school guy, new school guy. Like, would I have loved to have been paid? Absolutely. But was I one of those gonna get paid? Hell no. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't on that level, but damn, it would have made my job a lot easier as a safety if my corners got paid, and if that's what motivated them to play better. Like, absolutely. Like, hell yeah. Like, let's do that. And like you said, I think coaches like you with an open mindset in terms of, look, evolve with the times, and kind of, you got to embrace kind of what the kid is right now. And I think when you invest in the kid himself as to who he is, what he is, all of those kind of intangibles of, like, he's a football player or he's a program guy, right? Like, I want a guy that's willing to go out there and work for a couple years before he becomes the guy and develop, or he's willing to run down on special teams or do that kind of stuff. Like, be a part of the team. I think that's something now that a lot of these guys, it's all about how much I'm going to get paid. What's my NIL deal? It's a lot more me aspect of it, when, sorry, fellas, this is the ultimate team game. Like, football is a team. You're not going to be good unless that other guy is good with you, right? And it's really hard to kind of navigate those waters, especially for me, even at the high school level. You got guys talking about they should pay us. Like, okay, All right, buddy. Like, let's settle down. Go pass your freaking, math class. Where it's like, relax. All right, bro. I mean, look, you just saw it with, and coaches are now taking stands, right? Like you saw it with Josh Heupel. You saw it with Fran Brown. A couple of clips there of like, hey, this guy thinks he should be paid, and it's like, kick rocks, dude. It's difficult to kind of navigate those waters. So it's interesting. Yeah, it is. It's a juggling game at those P5 levels, P4, whatever we want to call it now.
No doubt about it. Well, Coach, it's been awesome. First of all, seeing you again. That's the best part about it, and seeing all your success. And I've talked to your dad over the years, and I've always had a great relationship with him. So it's awesome to see all the success you're having. It's phenomenal. And I love that, you're not just your skill set, but your level of understanding of everything within the game today is really, really second to none. So I envision incredible things keep happening long term, and,
hey, buddy.
And then one day, hopefully, you could go watch your son in high school if all that goes the right way.
Keep climbing that ladder, buddy.
You know what I mean? Hey, every day at a time. Every day, one day at a time.
That's it.
But when I come down to South Jersey, I'm going to be down there on 2 weeks on a Thursday.
Yeah.
I get something to eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's go.
Yes, of course. That sounds good.
100%, buddy. Absolutely. And look, obviously, if you need anything, let us know, right? Because, it is what it is. So, like, if you need anything, like, we just appreciate, like, because watching, we always flock to the Jersey guys no matter what, to watch those guys that now go from, especially where Dave is, like, where he has that network with guys that, he's known from whatever, to watch guys kind of climb that level in whatever they're doing. Especially when it comes to this, though. I mean, it's awesome, and it's a privilege. So I appreciate you taking the time, Coach. I know we've been trying to get this going for a long time, so I'm glad it finally worked out.
No doubt. Anything for you guys, anything for anybody from Jersey,
Yeah,
it's all love. North Jersey, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, there it is.
All right, Coach, have a great day. We'll see you soon.
All right, have a blessed day.
All right, bye.
All right, man.
That was phenomenal. That was great. There's nothing better than I mean, for me, it's interesting. It's kind of like a little odd in the sense that, like, people are grown men now, so
he was a boy when you probably saw him. You know what I mean? Like just
school. He was like 15, 16. I think that was when we were doing mostly freshmen and sophomores. But yeah,
it's just cool to see that, like, so cool. The evolution of, and look, he's like climbed the ranks. He's done that, hey, job. It's so hard for these guys, especially when you have a family. Like, he's got to still support. He's got a wife. He's got kids. He's got to be able to do that. So to just continue to see where he goes and climb those ranks is to, how it works. And then ultimately, I just love that guys will always you got to use your connections and your network, right? So if now he can pull a Jersey kid or a couple down there, right, and they have success, like, again, it goes back to just kind of hammering down what he says, like what he says that he is as a coach in terms of, I'm a really good recruiter. Absolutely, because I can pull a kid from maybe not the demographic or the geography of an area that we normally hit on, come down here, be successful. Now he can take that anywhere he goes. It's awesome. It's really a cool thing.
No, there's no doubt about it. It is really a cool thing. It's exciting to see it. It's a whole new world. It's always it's interesting hearing people's perspectives on things and how they approach it. Because everybody has like a slightly different approach, and
everybody. This ain't cookie cutter anymore, Dave. We talk about it all the time, dude. Like how one guy recruits, it's very different, and that might be his own individual recruiting. It might be the head coach that he, like, you know what I mean, or the coordinator that he's working for. Like from school to school, you know what I'm saying? Just based, I mean, look, he's not getting, like, look, you got to be something special to go there and play, right? Like, because, when it comes to the academics or any of those types of things, like we're talking about, look, he's taking high school guys, whereas some guys, it's like, hey, we're taking portal guys. We're looking for grad transfers.
And that's a small school.
That's one of the,
what
do you say, 1,700?
You can walk it. So
there's high schools.
I happen to have been there for a game, which what was that? I don't remember. I know the player I was looking at, but it was interesting. It was
one
when
of our former beasts got an offer.
What happened?
Bresky just got an offer there.
Okay, yeah.
Well, he said he was talking about he wants guys that are, what did he say? Contact courage.
Fast contact courage, yes.
I love that. I'm using that one.
No doubt. No, that's a good one. That's a good one. All right. Well, enjoy. Everybody enjoy their Good Friday and their Easter, and we'll be back when
we got Tuesday next week.
Tuesday, and then tonight we have the or I don't even know if I would call it tonight. It would be like late afternoon. We have the middle school and freshman showcase, which would be fun. And this is the first time I have run an event back in North Jersey in at least 5 years, maybe more.
Definitely.
So I'm going back. So
Bergen County, brother.
Start rebuilding that. Start rebuilding that part of it up. So all right, we'll see you all soon.
Have a great holiday.